They had ruled the stars for 11,000 years. They were tall creatures with skin and 4 arms. Their eyes glowed yellow like dying suns. They had conquered 93 species across the galaxy. They had made 47 races into slaves. They had erased 12 species completely from existence. They believed they were gods, and the universe had given them no reason to think otherwise. When their scout ships found Earth, they laughed. The small blue planet floated in an unremarkable corner of space. It was home to 7 billion soft creatures called humans. These humans had no faster-than-light travel. They had no energy shields. They had no plasma weapons. They were still fighting wars among themselves over patches of dirt and old disagreements. High Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the images of Earth on his viewing screen. He saw the humans walking on their streets. He saw their primitive vehicles. He saw their tall buildings made of glass and steel. He found it all very amusing. "Send them our standard greeting," ordered his communications officer. The message was simple. They had sent it to 93 species before. It said, "Submit or burn. Kneel before the Dominion and serve us forever, or we will turn your world to ash and forget you ever existed." On Earth, the message arrived on a Tuesday morning. The United Terran Council gathered in their great meeting hall in Geneva. Presidents and prime ministers argued with each other. Generals shouted about military options. Scientists talked about the impossibility of fighting a species so far ahead of them. Some leaders wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to launch nuclear weapons at the alien ships. Most just sat in stunned silence, unable to believe what was happening. But deep beneath the mountains of the Korean peninsula, in a bunker that had been built to survive the end of the world, an old woman sat alone in the darkness. Her name was Park. She was 73 years old. Her hair was completely white, and deep lines marked her face like a map of sorrows. She had been a soldier for 51 years. She had commanded troops in 3 great wars. She had watched the atomic fire consume the city of New Jakarta when she was just a young captain. She had buried more soldiers than most nations had ever created. They called her the Iron General. Some meant it as a compliment, others meant it as a warning. Park read the alien message 14 times. She studied every word. She thought about the arrogance behind those words. She understood exactly what kind of enemy humanity was facing. Lieutenant entered the room quietly. He was a young man of 32, tall and thin with kind eyes. He had served as her aide for 7 years. He knew when to speak and when to stay silent. "The Council is requesting your presence, General," he said softly. "They want you to lead our defense." Park did not look up from the message. "What do you see when you read this?" The young lieutenant hesitated. "A threat, General, a very serious threat." "I see something else." Park finally raised her eyes. They were dark and cold, like stones at the bottom of a frozen lake. "I see a species that has never truly been challenged. I see an empire built on the fear of weaker races. I see creatures who have forgotten what it means to face an enemy who refuses to be afraid." Considered her words. "But General, their technology is centuries beyond ours, perhaps thousands of years. How can we possibly fight them?" Park stood slowly. Her bones ached. Her body was old and tired, but her mind was sharp as a blade freshly forged. "They have conquered 93 species," she said. "Do you know what those species all had in common?" "No, General." "They all reacted the same way. They screamed. They begged. They launched desperate attacks. They died fighting in ways they expected." She walked to the window and looked out at the underground lights that kept her bunker bright. "They have become predictable because their enemies have always been predictable." "What are you suggesting?" Park was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "They want our fear. They have grown fat on the terror of dying worlds. They expect us to scream and beg and fight like all the others." She turned to face her young aide. "So we will give them something they have never encountered before." "What is that, General?" "Nothing." Her lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator. "We give them nothing at all, no fear, no anger, no response. We become silent, we become invisible, and while they wonder why we are not afraid, we prepare something special for them." She walked past toward the door. "Contact Doctor at the Advanced Research Division. Tell her that Omega Protocol is now active. Tell her she has 6 months to save our species." Felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard whispers about Omega Protocol, dark whispers about weapons that should never be built. "General," he said carefully, "what exactly is Omega Protocol?" Park paused at the doorway. She did not turn around. "It is the answer to a simple question, Lieutenant. They asked us to submit or burn. Omega Protocol is our third option." She walked into the darkness of the corridor. "It is their extinction, delivered in silence." 6 months passed in silence. They waited for humanity's response. They waited for the begging. They waited for the desperate pleas for mercy. They waited for the pathetic attempts at negotiation. Every species before had responded within days, some within hours. But Earth said nothing. High Commander grew impatient. He sent a second message, then a third. He threatened to destroy their moon. He threatened to boil their oceans. He described in great detail what they would do to human children if they did not surrender. Still, Earth was silent. The humans stopped all their transmissions into space. Their satellites went dark. Their radio signals disappeared. It was as if the entire planet had simply stopped existing. This had never happened before. Finally decided that the humans were simply too primitive to respond properly. Perhaps they did not understand the message. Perhaps they were too shocked to reply. It did not matter. He would crush them anyway and move on to more interesting conquests. He assembled the third armada of the Dominion, 40,000 warships, each one capable of destroying a city with a single shot. 2 million soldiers, eager for blood and glory. It was more firepower than any species had ever required. The armada entered the Sol system on a cold December morning. Admiral commanded the fleet from his flagship, a massive vessel called the Eternal Dominance. He was old even by standards, with scars across his face from 100 battles. He had personally overseen the extinction of 3 species. He considered himself an artist of destruction. "Scan the system," he ordered. His officers obeyed. Their instruments searched for human defense platforms. They searched for hidden fleets. They searched for orbital weapons. They found nothing. "There is nothing here, Admiral," the scanning officer reported with confusion. "No defenses, no military vessels. The planet appears unprotected." Admiral laughed. It was a deep, ugly sound. "They truly are as primitive as we thought. They probably hid underground like frightened animals." He turned to his weapons officer. "Begin planetary bombardment. Target their largest cities first. Let them learn the price of silence." The first volley fired. Thousands of plasma bolts streaked through space toward the blue planet. They struck the Pacific Ocean, turning millions of gallons of water instantly to steam. A message to humanity, a demonstration of power. Admiral waited for the screaming to begin. It did not. Instead, something strange happened. On the edges of the fleet, ships began to go dark. At first, it was just a few small vessels. Their lights flickered and died. Their engines went silent. They drifted like dead leaves in the void. "What is happening?" demanded. "Unknown, Admiral. We have lost contact with the outer patrol ships." Then more ships died, and more. The darkness spread through the fleet like a disease. Vessels that had been perfectly functional moments ago simply stopped. Their reactors went cold. Their life support failed. Their crews found themselves trapped in metal coffins, unable to breathe, unable to call for help. Watched in growing horror as his armada died around him. "All ships report status," he shouted. There was no response. One by one, the lights on his tactical display flickered and vanished. 40,000 ships, 2 million soldiers, all going silent. Then the lights on his own bridge began to fail. "Get us out of here," screamed. "Full retreat, emergency jump." But the engines did not respond. Nothing responded. The eternal dominance drifted in the darkness, dead and cold. Admiral died slowly, gasping for air that would never come, watching his crew suffocate around him. He never saw the enemy. He never understood what had killed him. Far below, in her underground bunker, General Park watched the holographic display as 40,000 red dots faded to black. Beside her stood Captain, a stern man with a shaved head and eyes that never seemed to blink. He commanded the Omega Protocol Division. "Saturation complete, General," he reported. "The enemy fleet is neutralized. Casualties on our side." "0." Park nodded slowly. She felt no joy. She felt no triumph. She only felt the cold weight of what had to be done. 6 months ago, Doctor had presented her with a weapon unlike anything in human history. Self-replicating nanomachines, each one smaller than a grain of sand. They could be hidden in space dust. They could drift undetected for months. They could infiltrate any ship, any station, any system. And when activated, they could eat a vessel from the inside out. The fleet had been infected the moment they entered the Sol system. They had spread through their hulls like a silent plague. They had waited patiently in the darkness, doing nothing, revealing nothing. Until Park gave the order. "What do we do now, General?" Captain asked. "We wait." "For what?" Park stared at the empty display, where 40,000 enemy ships had once been. "They will send more fleets. They will not understand what happened here. They will think it was a malfunction, an accident. They will send more and more ships trying to solve the mystery." She turned away from the display. "And every ship they send will carry our back to their empire. Every cargo vessel, every scout, every messenger. They will spread our weapon themselves without even knowing it." Captain felt a chill, despite the warmth of the bunker. "This is not war, General. This is something else entirely." Park did not disagree. "Send no message," she ordered. "Let them wonder, let their fear grow in the silence." She walked back to her quarters, leaving her officers to watch the empty void. Above the earth, 40,000 ships drifted in the darkness, filled with the frozen bodies of aliens who had come to conquer. The silence was complete. The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 11,000 years. In all that time, they had never known true fear. They had never faced an enemy they could not crush. They had never lost a battle they did not choose to lose. Now they were drowning in terror. High Commander paced the floor of his war chamber on the Dominion capital world. His 4 arms were clasped behind his back. His yellow eyes burned with confusion and rage. The Third Armada was gone, 40,000 ships, 2 million soldiers, vanished without a single distress call, without a single message, without a single survivor. He had sent the Fourth Armada to investigate. They disappeared the same way. Then the Fifth Armada, then the Eighth, then the 12th and 19th combined. Over 200,000 warships, gone, silent, dead. No one could explain what was happening. The greatest military minds in the Dominion studied the mystery. They sent automated probes to the Sol system. The probes worked perfectly until they crossed an invisible line. Then they too went silent. Something was killing everything that entered that region of space. Something invisible, something impossible, something that left no trace and took no prisoners. They began to whisper a new word among themselves, a word they had never needed before. Ghosts. They said the humans had summoned ghosts from the void. They said the Sol system was cursed. They said the small blue planet was protected by ancient spirits that devoured metal and flesh alike. These were superstitions. They were supposed to be above such primitive thinking. But when science offered no answers, fear filled the gap with nightmares. Far away, on Earth, General Park received regular reports from Dr. Was a small woman with round glasses and hair that was always messy. She had spent 20 years studying microscopic machines. She had never imagined her work would be used to kill millions. She did not sleep well anymore. They have spread beyond the Sol system, she reported, standing before Park in the underground command center. Every ship that entered our space carried them back to their staging areas. From there, they infected supply vessels, cargo ships, passenger transports. Lieutenant stood nearby, listening with growing unease. Where have they reached? Park asked calmly. Pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots appeared across it like a spreading disease. Their main supply lines are fully infected. Their forward bases are compromised. They have reached their inner colonies. She paused. They have also reached their home systems. Park studied the map without expression. How long until full saturation of their core worlds? 3 weeks, perhaps less. They are designed to remain dormant until activated. They have no idea they are already carrying their own death. Stepped forward. He had been silent for too long. He could not stay silent anymore. General, we need to talk about this. Park turned her cold eyes to her aide. Speak. We have won. They cannot hurt us anymore. Their fleets are destroyed. Their empire is terrified. We could negotiate now. We could demand peace. They would give us anything we wanted. And what of justice? Park asked softly. Justice. When they arrived in our system, they did not come alone. Park walked to another display screen. She pressed a button and images appeared. Images of burning cities. Images of bodies floating in space. Images of destruction beyond measure. They sent raiders to our outer colonies while their main fleet approached Earth. They destroyed 14 human settlements. 18 million people died in a single week. Felt sick looking at the images. They killed families, Lieutenant. They killed children. They burned hospitals and schools. They did this not because they needed to. They did it for entertainment. They did it because they could. Park turned back to face her officers. They have done this to 93 species. They have murdered trillions of innocent beings across thousands of years. They have erased entire civilizations for the crime of existing. Her voice grew colder with every word. And you want me to show them mercy? Lowered his head. I only meant that. I know what you meant. You are a good man. That is why I keep you close. You remind me that there should be limits. Park returned to studying the map. But some enemies do not deserve limits. Some enemies must be ended completely, or they will rise again and continue their killing. Commander Shin entered the room. She was a tall woman with sharp features and a scar across her left cheek. She commanded the Fleet Intelligence Division. General, we have new information. They are mobilizing their entire remaining military, every ship they have left. They are planning a final assault on Earth. How many ships? Nearly 500,000. Gasped 500,000. We cannot survive that. But Park smiled. It was a terrible smile. Let them come. Let them gather every ship they have. Let them bring the flower of their empire to our doorstep. She looked at the map showing the red spread of throughout space. While they focus on us, there will be undefended. Their people will be vulnerable. Doctor understood. Her face went pale. You are going to activate thee in their home systems, while their fleet is away. Park nodded. They wanted a war. I will give them an ending. She gave the order to prepare. In 3 weeks, the species would cease to exist. They would never see it coming. They would never understand what had happened. They would simply stop. It was called Prime. It was the jewel of their empire, a planet of impossible beauty with crystal towers that touched the clouds and golden oceans that sang in the wind. 12 billion lived there. They had built their civilization over 11,000 years. They had art and music and poetry. They had families who loved each other. They had children who dreamed of the stars. None of that would save them. On the morning of their extinction, three suns rose in perfect alignment over the capital city of. It was a holy day a day of celebration. Families gathered in the streets. Children played in the parks. Musicians performed songs of victory and glory. 500,000 warships had left for Earth the day before. The people believed their fleet would finally crush the mysterious human threat. They believed this nightmare would soon end. They believed they were still the masters of the galaxy. At precisely 7:42 in the morning, a mother noticed something strange. Her youngest child coughed once, then twice. Then the child collapsed. Across the city, the same thing happened. People stopped in the middle of sentences. They clutched their throats. They fell where they stood. They had been waiting in their air for weeks, in their water, in their food, in every breath they took. The machines had spread through the entire planet, invisible and patient. They had studied biology. They had learned exactly how to stop a body from functioning. Now they activated. There were no explosions, no fire falling from the sky, no enemy soldiers kicking down doors, just a gentle silence that spread across the world like a soft blanket. Parents fell beside their children. Lovers collapsed in each other's arms. Workers dropped their tools. Teachers stopped mid-lesson. Soldiers guarding the empty palaces crumpled to the ground. By noon, not a single on Prime was still breathing. The 12 billion souls who had called that world home were gone. Their crystal towers stood empty. Their golden oceans sang to no one. Their gardens bloomed for creatures that would never see them again. And then the same thing happened to the other core worlds. Fell by evening, 8 billion dead, followed before midnight, 6 billion more. One by one, like candles blown out by an invisible wind, the great worlds of the Dominion went dark. In her bunker beneath the earth, General Park watched the reports come in. Commander Shin stood beside her, reading data from the intelligence feeds. Her voice was flat, empty of emotion. She had trained herself to feel nothing when dealing with death on this scale. Prime is silent. No vital signs detected. Is silent. All 12 core worlds are confirmed, neutralized. Park said nothing. The outer colonies are collapsing, continued. Without central command, without supplies, without leadership, they are falling into chaos. Many are fleeing. Most have nowhere to go. Lieutenant sat in the corner of the room. He had not spoken in hours. He stared at the floor, unable to look at the screens. The fleet heading toward Earth has received word, reported. They have stopped their advance. They are attempting to return home. They will find nothing but graves, Park said quietly. Captain entered with a final report. His face was unreadable. General, they have exceeded our projections. They spread faster than anticipated. They did not limit themselves to military targets. Park finally looked at him. Explain. The civilian casualties are total. Every on the core worlds is dead. Not just soldiers, not just leaders, everyone. Children, elderly, sick, healthy. There was no discrimination. The room fell silent. Doctor had warned this might happen. They were efficient, too efficient. They were programmed to target biology, all biology. Park closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them again, her face was stone. They made their choice when they attacked our colonies, when they murdered 18 million humans for sport, when they laughed at our suffering. She stood slowly, her old bones protesting. We did not start this war. We did not ask for this war, but we have ended it. Finally spoke, his voice was hoarse. General, we killed them all, every last one. This was not war, this was extinction, Park finished for him. Yes, that is exactly what it was. The same extinction they had planned for us. The same extinction they had delivered to 12 other species before us. She walked to the window that showed nothing but rock and artificial light. History will judge us, Lieutenant. Perhaps it will call us monsters. Perhaps it will call us saviors. I do not care. The only thing that matters is that humanity survives. The only thing that matters is that our children will live to see tomorrow. The screens showed a galaxy in shock. The Dominion, which had ruled for 11,000 years, no longer existed. Their species was gone. Their empire was dust. And humanity had done it without firing a single traditional weapon, without losing a single soldier, without making a single sound. The silence was total. And in that silence, the galaxy began to understand something terrible. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was something far, far worse. 1 year had passed since the died. The galaxy was different now. The species that had lived under rule for centuries were suddenly free. The slaves were unchained. The conquered worlds began to rebuild. New governments formed. New alliances emerged. New hope spread across the stars. But beneath that hope was a different feeling, a cold feeling, a feeling that kept alien leaders awake at night and made their children afraid of the dark. Fear. They feared humanity. The Galactic Assembly met for the first time on a neutral station at the edge of known space. 68 species had sent representatives. Some were tall and thin. Some were short and wide. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had tentacles. They were as different from each other as life could be. But they all agreed on one thing. The humans terrified them. General Park walked into the great hall with slow, measured steps. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations. She needed no medals to prove her worth. Her reputation spoke louder than any piece of metal. Beside her walked Ambassador, a calm man in his 50s with silver hair and gentle eyes. He was humanity's voice to the galaxy. He smiled at the assembled aliens. Most did not smile back. Behind them stood Lieutenant, Commander Shin, Captain, and Doctor, the architects of the Extinction, the silent killers of 1 trillion souls. The hall fell quiet as Park approached the central platform. The ambassador was the first to speak. He was a creature of blue skin and sharp teeth, known for his aggressive diplomacy. "You committed genocide," he hissed across the chamber. "You murdered an entire species, billions of innocent lives, children, families. You killed them all without mercy, without hesitation. How can we possibly trust you?" Park looked at him without expression. "They killed 18 million of my people in their first week," she said calmly. "They came to our world with one simple message: submit or burn. They gave us no third option. They expected us to kneel or die." She paused, letting her words echo through the chamber. "We chose a third option anyway." A murmur ran through the crowd. "You erased them completely," the delegate said. He was a small creature covered in golden fur with sad eyes. Surely some compromise was possible. Surely peace could have been achieved. Park turned to face him. They had conquered 93 species before they found us. They had enslaved 47 races. They had completely erased 12 civilizations from existence. 12 entire species gone forever because the found it amusing. Her voice grew colder. Did anyone here offer those species a compromise? Did anyone here try to stop them before they came for humanity? They looked away in shame. "We were afraid," he admitted quietly. "Yes, you were afraid," Park nodded slowly. "Everyone was afraid. They ruled through terror. They killed anyone who challenged them. They made examples of the brave and rewarded the cowardly. For 11,000 years the galaxy cowered before them." She stepped forward, and several aliens stepped back instinctively. "We did not cower. We could not afford to. We are a young species from a small world. We have spent our entire existence at war with ourselves. We have survived ice ages, plagues, famines, and our own nuclear weapons. We have killed each other in numbers that would make most species weep. And through all of it, we learned one simple truth." She looked across the assembly with eyes that had seen too much death. When something threatens our survival, we do not negotiate. We do not compromise. We do not surrender. We end the threat, completely, permanently, forever. The chamber was silent. Ambassador stepped forward with a gentler expression. "My people do not seek empire," he said, his voice warm and reasonable. "We do not want to rule the galaxy. We have no interest in conquering your worlds or enslaving your people. We only want to be left in peace." The ambassador laughed bitterly. "And if we do not leave you in peace, what then? Will you do to us what you did to the—" Park answered before could speak. "Let me tell you something about human history," she said. "We have a saying, 'Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it.'" She clasped her hands behind her back. "They did not learn. They saw us as weak because we are small. They saw us as primitive because we are young. They did not understand that weakness and youth can hide something much more dangerous." "And what is that?" they asked. "Desperation," Park replied. "A desperate species will do things that a comfortable species cannot imagine. We built our weapon in 6 months, 6 months, from nothing to extinction because we had no choice." She let that sink in. "We do not want to be your enemy. We want to trade with you. We want to learn from you. We want to share this galaxy in peace. Ambassador speaks the truth. We seek no empire." She walked toward the exit, then stopped and looked back. "But if anyone here is thinking about testing us, if anyone here is considering whether humanity might be easy prey now that they are gone, let me save you the trouble of experimenting." Her eyes swept across the assembly, meeting the gaze of every alien present. "You will not hear us coming. You will not see your end approach. You will continue your normal lives believing you are safe until one day you simply stop, just like anyone who threatens our survival." She turned and walked toward the door. "We do not want war, but if you bring war to us, we will give you peace, eternal peace, the kind of peace the now enjoy." The doors closed behind her. The assembly sat in stunned silence for a long time. Finally, the delegate spoke. "I think," he said softly, "we should be very, very nice to the humans." No one disagreed. In the years that followed, humanity joined the galactic community as peaceful traders and explorers. They made friends. They built alliances. They shared their art and their music and their strange, wonderful culture. But no one ever forgot what they were capable of. And in the quiet darkness between stars, alien children learned a new word. A word that had once meant a small, primitive species on a small, blue world. Human. It tasted like fear. It sounded like silence. And it meant, do not wake the monster.